So we'll start here down at the bottom of the spine with the triangular shaped bone called the sacrum, which is actually just a number of fused vertebrae. Right off of the sacrum is the iliac bone. You won't need to remember that, but I wanted to point it out because the very top edge of this, the iliac crest, is just bone right under skin. So it doesn't feel good to be massaged right on that crest there. However, there are a lot of the lower back muscles that come in and attach to that bone, as well as the gluteus medius coming up from behind here. So that feels good above or below the crest, but definitely not right on the crest. So, but back to the sacrum, I'd like you to try and remember that name. Your spine, of course, will be easy to remember. One thing I want to point out about the spine, again, that is just bone right under skin. So you definitely never want to put pressure or try and massage right down the center of the spine. We'll shortly learn about the muscles on either side of the spine, the erector spinae. So you can palpate, feel where the spine is, and then feel that bump on either side. That's the erector spinae muscles. So that's where you want to massage, but never directly down the center. So again, the sacrum, the spine, and then the scapula are these two winged shaped bones on either side of the spine. Your scapula, so let's remember those, and then heading right up the spine to the occipital bone. That's that bottom triangle shaped bone at the back of your cranium. So your occipital bone, the bottom edge of that, we call the occiput or the occipital ridge, and you have a lot of muscles from the neck and upper back coming in and attaching there. So it feels really good to massage right at that edge. And it's often a place that people get headaches. So you can massage right in there. If they have a headache, possibly not too deep. Okay, so that's your occipital ridge right at the bottom, your occiput bone, your spine, your scapula, and the sacrum. So there's three main muscle groups we're going to have a look at, but before we do, I'd just like to give a shout out to Savannah from thefineartofmedicine.com for making these most amazing drawings. I love them. So this first group is the erector spinae that I mentioned before. They lie on either side of the spine and running from the pelvis all the way up to the cranium. They're actually a group of different muscles that are collectively known as the erector spinae. The next group of muscles is the rhomboids, and they're a diamond-shaped set of muscles running from the spine out to the inner edge of the scapula on both sides. So if the origin starts at the spine, the muscle contracts back towards the origin. So you can picture that's going to make the scapula lift in towards the spine, but also up towards the ears. This is also assisted by one more muscle, the levator scapula, that runs from the top of the scapula up to the spine. But I just wanted you to have an awareness here of the rhomboids, basically from the spine out to the inner edge of the scapula. And those are an area that gets really tight during stress. We all tend to hold our shoulders up at our ears, the rhomboids. Lastly, the most superficial muscle group laying on top of the others is a huge three-part group called the trapezius. And we'll be working a lot on what's called the upper trapezius, which is basically the tops of your shoulders up here. So this huge muscle group is called the trapezius. Okay, so let's get started. Standing at the head of the table, be aware that the first touch is going to be your introduction to their body. So you want to come in and make them feel they're in good hands. So placing one hand firmly on the sacrum, you can use the other hand and just slide it up the spine, giving some traction. And then you can do some exploratory movements, maybe stand to one side and push the erector muscles away from the opposite side. You could swing around the top and do some thumb pressure on the upper trapezius, and then some rocking along the erectors on the opposite side. But the basic protocol I'm just showing is one hand firmly on the sacrum and the other hand drags up, maybe a hold at the heart. Then sliding your hands up and begin the scalp massage. So a scalp massage, if somebody has long hair, you're going to need to weave your fingers through the hair so that you're not pulling it. And you want to get the pads of your fingers contacting the actual scalp. So you're just doing a nice pulling in and upward in this with the pads of your fingers in a grabbing motion. And don't forget to work the sides of the head as well at the temple area. And then the next move, number 2, is going to be to undrape your client. So bring that down to the lower waist. And then placing the oil in your hands, warm it up with your hands. You're never going to place oil right onto the back. So warm it up into the hands, and then you're going to spread it down the back and make that part of the massage. So I usually just kind of spread down, spread out the hips, and then make sure it gets all the way out into the sides body, and then kind of lean into the arms and up the tops of the shoulders to the neck. And again, you can always end there with some of those occipital circles. So number 3, you're going to palm the rhomboids using that base of your palm and just alternate the hands right in the rhomboid area. So between the scapula and the spine, palming the rhomboids. And the next move is just going down the back. You can choose your hand position either with the fingers in or just using that pressure in the palm. Again, slide down the erector muscles along either side of the spine. As you get into the lower back, bring the pressure into your fingers, kind of cupping your fingers. And then as you get down towards the hips, you can do some alternating thumbs right there at the sacrum, right on top of that sacral bone. Not too hard, there isn't a lot of padding there. And then the next move you're going to do is swimming out the hips. So you're cupping your fingers and you're using the pressure into your fingers to swim out the sides of the hips. And then you're going to go ahead and just drag on up the sides, put some pressure over the scapula. Drag your hands over the tops of the shoulders, up the sides of the necks, and then finger circles at the occipital ridge. Now number 6 on the protocol is actually to repeat numbers 3 through 5. So that's palming the rhomboids, and then sliding down alongside the spine, doing thumb circles at the sacrum, swimming out the hips, and sliding up the sides. Number 7 is going to be alternating thumbs down the erector muscles and the sacrum. So it's the same thing that you were doing with your palm, but you're just doing it one thumb at a time. That's going to kind of spread the muscle fibers in a different way, and it gets in a little bit deeper. So alternating thumbs down the spine and then onto the sacrum. Go ahead and swim out the hips and slide up the sides. Next, you're going to move to the left side of the body. And we're going to go into move number 8 on the protocol, which is kneading the neck. So it's alternating hands and you're squeezing them in on the muscles on either side of the neck. So it's like a sweeping motion, alternating, squeezing along sides of the neck. Number 9 is kneading the upper trapezius. So notice that you're reaching over to their right side body and you're alternating one hand at a time, squeezing in at that upper trapezius muscle. and move right into number 10, which is a scapula guide, putting pressure with both hands over the scapula, swing around and then squeeze up the angles of the scapula as you come back up. So pressure down on top of the scapula, sweep around, squeeze up the side angles with your thumbs kind of on that inner edge of the scapula, squeezing in on that. Now number 11 is rhomboid thumb strips. Now you can kind of stack your thumbs right next to each other, or you can do one at a time in that alternating motion that I've been showing. But you're basically sweeping the rhomboids from the spine up to the inner edge of the scapula and even somewhat underneath that scapula. And then number 12 is the descending side swipe. So we start all the way up that top of the shoulder and then over the scapula. And then as we get down to the sides, we're angling and starting to cup our fingers so that we're getting the intercostal muscles between the ribs all the way down to the lower back. And that moves right into number 13, where we make a fist and we go knuckles up the erectors. You have your thumb there that's kind of in the upward position, and it's going to guide you. So you feel where the spine is, where the erectors are, and let that thumb guide you to make sure you're not going over the spine, and just use the knuckles to slide up the sides of the erectors. As you get towards the top, I often use the other hand to slide over the top of the shoulder while I bring my knuckles right down and start a whole another rotation. So knuckles up the erectors, use the hand to drag that over the shoulder, and you can kind of keep doing that cycle a number of times. Now reposition the body back to standing at the head of the table, and we'll head into number 14, which is alternating thumb drags. So the pressure here is in the thumb and the fingers are just following. So you're taking your thumbs up the erectors and dragging them right over the tops of the shoulders. Then for number 15, rake the upper trapezius. We're going to use our fist in a sweeping motion and take your knuckles. With one hand you can stabilize your body, and the other hand you're just going to rake your fist up over the very top of that upper trapezius and use the top of your knuckles to even sweep up the neck a bit. Then number 16 is going to be an integration sweep. So this is going to finish that whole side of the body. You can go down with both hands and just sweep down the spine and around the side, down the arm and back up. Or you can do one hand down and one hand up over that shoulder. Number 17 on our protocol is to go back and practice moves 8 through 16 on the left side of their body while you stand at the right. So you can click back to minute number 9 and follow along. Now that you've completed both sides, you're going to stand at the head of the table, and number 18 of the protocol is actually to repeat moves 3 through 5 like you did at the beginning. So that's palming the rhomboids, and then palm along sides of the spine, thumb circles at the sacrum, swim out the hips, and slide up the sides. Now number 19 is to rake the upper trapezius with both hands. You've done this one at a time, but you're going to do it with both hands. So you're using the knuckles, and the thumbs are just kind of following along to guide you, but there's no pressure in them. And then the last time you're going to drag the knuckles all the way up the neck and finish with some circles at the occiput. And then heading into number 20, which is our last finishing move, it's dual integration sweeps. So you're going to slide down along sides of the spine, sweep out the sides, drag up the sides, pressure into the scapula, pressure down the arms, little squeeze at the end, dragging back up, and circles at the occiput. Number 21 is to re-drape your recipient. So covering them back up, and then just finish with a bit more scalp massage before your final move, which is going to be your final hold and release. So you position yourself to the side body, place one hand at the sacrum and one hand at the heart. And this is a moment where I say a little prayer, wishing for any unbeneficial energies to be released from myself and the recipient, and that we be left with only beneficial energies. So then very slowly I'll begin to release my hands, hovering a bit over the top of their body for a moment and coming away nice and gently.
After the massage, your recipient may be in a deep state of relaxation, so give them a moment before engaging in conversation. You could wash your hands and grab them a glass of water. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.